Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us wherever you're at in the world. We are really excited to have you here for the next hour to learn a little bit more about the University of Denver. Now, regardless of whether you are just starting your college search process or maybe you've already been admitted, we're really excited for you to join us and learn about what DU has to offer for our student body and what it means to join this community. My name is Graham Preheim. I'm an Associate Director of Admission. I primarily work with our students based in Northern California, Oregon, and Washington. So if you're from one of those areas, a special welcome to you. But I'm just one of an entire office that not only covers the United States, but also the entire globe. Now, if you want to know who your admissions counselor is to stay in touch with us after tonight, please look into the chat feature where one of my colleagues is going to be putting in a find your counselor link. Like I said, we'd be happy to stay in touch with you after this evening. So please contact us either by phone, email, or we'd be happy to set up a Zoom or Teams appointment with you. Now, to give you a rundown of how this evening is going to go, the next hour is split into two parts. The first part, we are going to have an information session giving you a general overview of the university, while we also sprinkle in some of our current student stories. And at the end, we're going to be doing a live Q&A between myself and 3 of our current students. So if you do have questions throughout the evening, please feel free to continue to put them in the Q&A feature. In addition to our students, I have 4 of my colleagues with me that are happy to answer your questions. And if you request closed captioning for this evening, know that you can find that button at the bottom of your screen. But with that said, I'm going to invite our 3 current students onto the screen. I'm going to have them introduce themselves. If you have questions for them, please let them know as well. But we're going to start with Lily and then go to Vincent and we'll end with Jess.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lily. I'm a tour guide here at DU. I am a junior, and I'm studying criminology with 2 minors, one in psychology and one in history. I'm originally from Chicago, and apart from being a tour guide on campus, I'm also involved in DU First Edition, which is a women's a cappella group, and also part of our Model United Nations team.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vincent. I'm from Westminster, Colorado, about 30 minutes north of DU's campus. I'm a senior majoring in international studies with minors in history and leadership studies through our Pioneer Leadership Program. I'm also involved with the honors program on campus, our club tennis team, Model UN, and then our South Asian Student Association. And then currently I'm also taking master's classes part of our 4+1 program, and I'm studying to get my master's in international development.
Hi guys, my name is Jess. I am also a 4+1 student, actually in the same program as Vincent, studying for international development. I just finished my bachelor's in international studies, and I'm originally from just outside of Chicago. Some things I've done besides tour guiding include being a part of the DU book club, Happy Tampers, and I also work in the marketing and communications at the Corbell School.
Awesome. Thank you 3 for joining us. And like I said, they're going to turn their cameras off now, but we'll be seeing them throughout the evening. Now, to kick off our time together, I first just want to start by giving you an overall view of what the university looks like and our 3,000-foot view of our philosophy of education. Now, we call that our 4-dimensional experience, but we shorten that to just call it the 4D experience. Now, this is really focused on the holistic aspects of education. So although academics is a huge part of why you're choosing to go to college, it's a huge part of what we do on our campus as well, it is just a fraction of your time while you're at the university. So a lot of our resources have been put to also helping our students build their overall character. And that's really our responsibility as an institution to provide you opportunities both inside and outside of the classroom to really find yourself as a young adult. Most of our undergraduate students are that traditional 18 to 22 years old. It's a really crucial time in your life. So we also want to make sure you have a safe environment to do that in. So when it comes to our students' well-being, we definitely have aspects of our campus for our students' physical health, their mental health. But one thing we'll also hit on tonight is the financial well-being of our students. I stand up for our students with scholarships and financial aid to not only make it a successful 4 years at DU, but ultimately help them go on to have a successful career. And our biggest goal is to help our students find their life of purpose. So it's making it pretty ambiguous right now. Like I said, is that 30,000-foot view of the university, but you'll see very quickly how it becomes a tangible part of our campus community. Now, speaking of our campus community, I first also want to jump in by just showing who's studying on our campus. And I think these demographics I'm showing on the screen do a really great job of showing you the student makeup of our student body. The first thing I want to hit on is that map that you're seeing. That shows the overall geographic diversity of where our students are coming from. And I think it surprises a lot of people when they find out that nearly 3/4 of our student body is not from the state of Colorado. So it is very common for our out-of-state students that you might be the only one or two coming from your school. For our in-state students, the largest number of students we got last year from a school was about 6 or 7. So when students come to DU, although they may not know a lot of people, when they get here, they're not alone through that. So it's a fresh start for a lot of our students, and we have a really strong way of building community here that we'll talk about later on in the presentation. Now, the second number that I want to point out is simply our number of students at the bottom of the screen. People are also surprised when they find out that DU is a predominantly graduate school institution. Now, the overwhelming majority of those graduate students do a lot of their degree work online, or if they do come to campus, it's either on the evenings or on the weekends. So when it comes to our campus culture, really where we put a lot of our student resources, it is focused on our 6,000 undergraduate students. And if you're someone that is looking for that traditional college experience, we're going to be a really great fit for you. Now, on the academic side of things, I want to start by just talking about our academic calendar, because it maybe looks a little bit different than the institutions that you're coming from. At the University of Denver, we are based on the quarter system, meaning that we have 4 10-week base quarters. Now, our summer quarter is optional and additional. Overall majority of undergraduates never take a class over the summer, and they still graduate on time. So when we talk about our academic year, we talk about it in terms of the bigger boxes that you see on the screen. It's a total of 30 weeks of classes. That's the exact same number of weeks on a semester-based system. So the difference then is the number of classes that students take in a year. On a semester-based system, you're taking about 4 to 5 classes each semester. You're ending the year with 8 to 10 classes under your belt. Quarter system students take about 4 to 5 classes per quarter, meaning that most of our students are taking about 12 to 15 classes a year. Now, this benefits our student body in one of 2 ways. Let's say you are someone who has no idea what you want to study when you come to college. That is totally fine. Coming in undeclared is our second most popular option for our incoming students, and you have until the end of your sophomore year to declare a major, which means you could take up to 30 classes before you declare that major. Plenty of time to either find things that you're very interested in, or maybe find things that you thought you were interested in and you want to see your career path go a different direction. So a lot of flexibility there for our undeclared students. Now, on the flip side, let's say you are someone who knows exactly what they want to study. You are someone who maybe wants to study more than one thing, like our tour guides that we heard today. That is part of our culture here at DU. Many of our students are double majors with double minors, or one of our tour guides is a double major and quadruple minor and still graduating in 4 years. So regardless of where you're at on the academic spectrum coming into the university, quarter system really benefits our students to add degree programs along the way should they choose. Now, kind of going back to the logistics of the quarter system, you'll note that our fall quarter starts after Labor Day each year, and it ends before Thanksgiving. Then our students have 6 weeks off. A big reason we have a 6-week winter break is we recognize that 75% of our students are not from the state of Colorado. So it means you only have to buy 1 plane ticket home and you're home for all the winter holidays. Now, during those 6 weeks, you're welcome to be at home or be traveling, but you could also maybe opt into doing an internship either back home or back here in Denver. It's a great time to maybe do some interterm courses. So we do offer some very quick, maybe 2 to 5 week based classes that you can get involved with, or it's also a great time for students to study abroad. But after those 6 weeks, our students come back for our winter quarter, which ends in about the middle of March. Around April 1st is typically when we start our spring quarter, which ends in the middle of June. So we end about a month later than most semester-based systems, but we also start a month later than them. So you still get that full summer break in between. Now, to give you an idea what a traditional student on our campus looks like, I think this pie chart does a really great job. So this is actually one of the students in our office. She's a communication studies major. She double minors in Spanish and business. And then you'll see that she still has 35 elective credits to take whatever classes she wants. So you'll see on the left-hand side, we have 5 schools and colleges for our students to choose from, and you are free to take classes across different schools and colleges, whether it's classes you've always been interested in, maybe you want to pick up a minor along the way, or start to double major in something. But regardless of your curriculum at DU, about a third of it is going to be our common curriculum or general education requirements. Now, some of you may be fulfilling AP, IB, or dual enrollment classes in high school to go towards common curriculum. But regardless, we are a liberal arts school at our foundation. So students are required to take classes across our different schools and colleges. And I think that's where a lot of our students like that solid foundation in the liberal arts before pursuing their degrees outside of that common curriculum. Now, inside of the classroom, that's a big thing that we focus on at DU, because I think there's a common misconception when people see our number of graduate students, they're going to be taught by GAs and TAs your first couple of years. That could not be further from the truth. 99% of our classes are taught by faculty. 90% of our faculty have at least a doctoral degree. So when you're coming in at 17, 18, 19 years old, you're learning from experts in your field right away, and you're knowing them pretty well just due to our class sizes. As a university, our average class size is 24. And when we talk about lecture-based classes, most of those are usually only between 50 to 70 students. It's very rare that we offer classes more than that because we still like our students to get to know each other by name, as well as have more of a discussion-based model versus a pure lecture style model for a lot of our classroom setting. But to talk a little bit more about their experience at the academic side of our campus, I'm going to invite Lily back onto the screen to share her experience.
Hi, everyone. So quickly, just to kind of delve into academics a little bit more, classes are going to meet only twice a week, and they are 2 hours long. I don't know if that was touched on quickly, but yeah, so classes are going to be 2 hours long, which can sound like a lot, like sitting through 2 hours doesn't sound fun, but you only meet twice a week. So there's only 20 classes in the entire quarter. So if you're taking a class you're really not too interested in, I always say it's going to go by so quickly. To just count down 20 classes. Another great thing about taking only 2 classes per week, only taking, so sorry. The best thing about only taking 4 classes in total is that it leaves, usually classes are going to meet Mondays or Wednesdays and then Tuesdays or Thursdays, which really leaves those Fridays open, which is a really great time to either be able to work, or if you want to be able to go up into the mountains, it's really great to have those Fridays open to kind of just give you a little bit more of a flexible schedule. And then lastly, just kind of wanted to touch on a little bit more about the class sizes and faculty. So the biggest class, as being a criminology major with minors within psychology and history, the biggest class I ever saw was Intro to Psychology, which had 90 people, but just because that is a class that has a lot of demand. But now being a junior, getting into most of our required classes, the biggest class size I'm seeing right now is 20. So I just really wanted to emphasize that there are like small class sizes, but it does really help, I say, to be able to ask a question in front of 20 people than trying to ask a question in front of 90 people. Otherwise, I feel like Grant kind of just covered on all of that. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lily. I really appreciate it. Now, outside of the classroom setting, we also want to make sure we're setting our students up for success. And that continues on the academic side of campus. One of the biggest support services you'll see for our student body is our Anderson Academic Commons. Now, we just call it our library, but last year, DU's library was ranked the #1 college library in the United States by the Princeton Review. Now, a huge part of that ranking goes into our 5 drop-in centers that we offer for students. So in addition to our tutoring, we have a center for overall STEM. We have one for math specifically. We have one for our writing students. We have one for languages. Then we also have one for student research. So it's a great time, if you do have time in between class, like Lily was talking about, to go to our library, get some immediate assistance, and be on your way. These other ones that you see listed on the screen are more focused on the transitions to and from college. So maybe coming into college is your first time on a quarter system, maybe it's your first time getting used to the academic rigor of college, or you're looking for people who have similar academic interests. You may want to get involved in our First at DU programming. That could look like our One Gen U program for first generation college students. We have an Equity in STEM program, our Excelling Leaders Institute. Outside of that, you may also want to look at our honors program or our Pioneer Leadership program, where you can earn a leadership studies minor. If you're someone who's seeking accommodations in college, know that we have 2 support programs. One that is free for students, called our Student Disability Services program. And the other one we are nationally recognized for, it's called our Learning Effectiveness program. So if you are someone that's looking for more one-on-one attention, this is going to be a really great fit for you. And then the last one that you see up here is our career readiness. And not only are they focused on assisting our students find a full-time job or graduate school after their time here, while they're a student, a huge part of their overall goal is helping our students find experiential learning opportunities. Now, experiential learning looks different for every student, but the reason we clump these 3 together is because this is what students do a lot in tandem with classes. So Lily had talked a lot about how our classes are Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. A lot of our students do have their Fridays off to, one, help with their work-life balance, but Friday is a great day to do an 8-hour internship, which is why over 80% of our students do at least one. It's also a great time to get involved in research. 2 years ago, DU got promoted to be a Tier 1 R1 research university in the United States. Out of the 4,000 schools in the US, roughly 150 have this status, and DU is one of the smallest schools to ever achieve this. So if you're looking for a school that not only teaches knowledge, but creates it, we're going to be a really great fit. And the last one up here is service learning. It's your opportunity to get involved with nonprofit organizations, volunteer work, or our service learning courses to really find out how you can impact the world around you, and especially the Denver metro community. But when it comes to experiential learning, the biggest one that we have to talk about during this info session is study abroad. Currently, the university ranks #2 in the nation for percentage of students who study abroad in their undergrad, with over 70% of our campus population that will take advantage of this. Now, there's a few things that go into that popularity. First, it's the fact that any major on our campus has the opportunity to study abroad and earn credits towards a degree program. At a lot of institutions, you are welcome to go study abroad, but they may not take any of your credits back, so you end up being there for 5 or 6 years. DU students who study abroad actually have higher rates of graduation in 4 years than our students who don't. So it really becomes an accessible part of our campus community, also because of where we go. We go to every continent except for Antarctica. So if you want to go to Antarctica, we're probably not the best fit for you. But if you are looking for a specific language component, maybe it's a certain culture you're looking for, or a specific institution itself, we usually can fit the bill. But fitting the bill is the biggest reason why so many DU students are able to study abroad. We have something set in place called our Sherrington Global Scholars Benefit, which ensures that whatever students pay to go to DU, that's what they pay to study abroad, and we actually make up the rest of the costs as an institution. So we pay for things like airfare and visa requirements to make sure that regardless of our students' financial background, they have the opportunity to go have this amazing experience and bring that knowledge back to our campus. So to talk a little bit more about their experience study abroad, I'm going to ask Vincent to come back onto the screen. I'll talk a little bit more about the process and his experience itself.
Thanks, Grant. Yeah, so to start off and talk a little bit about the actual process of studying abroad, most students choose to study abroad during the fall quarter of their junior year. There's a couple different reasons for that. Number one is it's built into a lot of the academic plans of our departments. They know their students are going to be abroad at that time. We also do have a 2-year live-on requirement, which we'll be discussing a little bit, but 2-year live-on requirement. And so within that, once you are lived on campus for 2 years, you're eligible to live off campus, also eligible to go study abroad. And then the big thing is unlocking those Sherrington Global Scholars benefits as a junior. Now, that doesn't mean the process starts as a junior. For example, myself, I studied abroad in Madrid, Spain during the fall quarter of my junior year. So that was fall 2022. I was in Madrid, but in the entirety of my sophomore year, I was receiving a lot of support from the university. So for example, I took a class called it's called INTZ, but it's basically internationalization. So it helps you get used to being in other cultures. We have regular meetings with our Office of International Education to help you get placed in different programs. And then there's also just several info sessions brought to you through the Office of International Education so you can figure out what's going to be the best fit for you. Maybe you want to take a specific class, you want to learn a specific language. Some students do internships abroad. So there's a variety you can do. And then actually, speaking to the experience itself, I was at a university in Madrid. I took classes basically Monday through Thursday. I took 2 classes in English, or no, 3 classes in English, 1 class in Spanish. Most of them were fulfilling just elective credit for myself. People can take minors or major credits abroad. And then the biggest thing for me was the ability to travel on the weekends. So a lot of my friends were studying abroad at the same time in Europe. So I was able to visit everyone in London. We all met up in Copenhagen for a weekend, and then everyone came to Madrid for 1 weekend as well. So that was a really incredible experience. And if you don't want to do a full quarter abroad, you're also welcome to do what's called an interterm trip. So for example, on our 6-week-long winter break, students can take 10-day, 2-week-long trips led by DU faculty. I went to Ireland for 10 days. During the winter break of my sophomore year, we were studying leadership in Irish independence movements as part of the Pioneer Leadership Program. And that was a really incredible experience to get 4 credits, a lot of which we were just kind of exploring different cities, as well as going to museums and hearing guest lectures. So that's 2 ways students can study abroad, and both are incredible experiences.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vincent. I really appreciate your time. But he had mentioned, like, most of our juniors and seniors are the ones who are studying abroad. Part of that is because of the Sherrington Global Scholars benefit, but Vincent was absolutely correct. The other part of it is because we have a 2-year live-on requirement for our student body. So when it comes to living on campus, those 2 years look very different from one another. As an incoming first-year student, listed on your screen are our 3rd first-year residence halls, which follow a very dormitory style of living. Now, biggest difference between these 3 is simply where they're located on our campus. So on the north side of our campus, we have Centennial Halls, simply just known as halls. In the center of campus, we have DeMond Family Residential Village, That is also our newest facility on our campus. And then on the south side of our campus, we have Johnson McFarland Hall, simply known as JMAC. But for those who are admitted and kind of looking at the next steps process, know that our housing application is open for incoming first-year students. That application stays open through July, and we don't do our housing selection process until the end of July. Now, with these 3 residence halls, they are mostly going to be doubles, so you and one other person. And we put a lot more emphasis on who you're living with than where you're living on our campus, which is why we don't do that selection process until the middle of summer. Now, that's your first year. Your second year, you transition more into apartment style living or suite style living, but still on our campus. And then your junior, senior year, it is very much up to you. If you would like to stay on campus, you are more than welcome to, but overwhelming majority of upper class students tend to live off campus within about a 5 to 10 block radius of where our campus is located. If you look at a map of the Denver metro community, you'll know that this neighborhood is called the University neighborhood. So it does give it a little bit more of a college town feel within the greater metro region. We truly are where the city meets the suburbs right here in the University neighborhood. And because of that, it's very residential for our students, so they can still bike, walk, longboard, skateboard to class. Kind of expands our campus a little bit to include this really cool neighborhood. Now, another part about housing is the option to live in living and learning communities. This would be living on a floor or grouping of floors that either have similar academic interests as you, or maybe it's outside interests. For example, our sustainability floor. So if that's something you're interested in, you can also apply for that through the housing portal, something to look forward to down the line. Now, once you're a student here, we have you on campus, you're going through your orientation process. That's where we start talking about this community overall. And one of the ways we help our students socialize on campus is revolving around food. We have one central dining facility in our campus called our Community Commons on the 2nd floor. And it's where our students commune, 2 to 3 times a day to eat from the 8 to 9 different stations that we have out. We also have different dining options throughout our academic buildings. So if you are on the go between classes, it's a great way to swipe your meal pass and be on your way. If you're someone that does want to get involved in the community, which most of our students are, we have over 100 different clubs and organizations, both on the academic side, as well as on the social side of campus. Our biggest club on our campus is our Alpine Club, which you'll see pictured in the top right. It's a group of students that makes trips every single weekend to the mountains for a variety of alpine activities. Our second biggest club is our Dungeons and Dragons and Board Game Society. My favorite club on campus is called DUGS, stands for the DU Grilling Society, that just grills free food for campus. And then we also have aspects like our cultural and sorority fraternities. We have traditional sorority fraternity life, which is about 18% of our student body. We have our religiously affiliated organizations, our Center for Sustainability. So there's many ways for students to either get involved while working on campus or be involved on that social side. When it comes to school spirit, we have big traditions every quarter. In the fall, it's homecoming and alumni weekend. In the winter, it's called Winter Carnival, which is coming up in just a couple weeks. But we actually rent out part of a ski resort in the mountains and allow our students to go up there for the weekend. And then my favorite one is called May Days, happens in the spring, but it's really just focused on being outside. So when we do our big concert for the year, and we also try and coincide that around the same time as Parent and Family Weekend. So parent and family members can also see a different season in Denver. Now, another way we get through our school spirit is through athletics. As an institution, we are an NCAA Division I school. Now, our sports look a little bit different than maybe some of our peer competitors or schools you might also be looking at. Our biggest sport on our campus is hockey. We are 9-time NCAA champs, most recently in 2022, which is what you see pictured on the screen. But our other big championship winning sports include women's gymnastics, men's and women's lacrosse, our men's and women's soccer teams, as well as our ski team. Now, we have 18 sports overall. Definitely encourage you to check those out on our athletics website, but many ways as a student to go represent our school and also support your fellow classmates. If you want to get involved in athletics, we have 50 different club and intramural options, or if you just want to get fit, we have our own Course Fitness Center. We have our own swimming pool on our campus. It's an Olympic-sized swimming pool. And then we also have our own on-campus clinic. So whether you're seeking a general practitioner or maybe mental health resources, know that you can do that from the comfort of campus, and you don't have to go out into the Denver metro community to seek that out. Then the last part about just campus life has to do with the transportation options. As an incoming student, you are more than welcome to bring a car to campus. However, less than 10% actually buy a permit here. And that's because you get a free RTD pass as a student. So you can use the Denver light rail system and the bus system at no additional cost. We have a light rail system on our campus. It takes our students 10 minutes south to the Denver Tech Center. That's where a lot of our students choose to do their internships. 15 minutes north of campus is downtown Denver. So if you want to go to a professional sporting event, a Broadway show, maybe there's shopping or a concert coming through, it's a great way to get downtown. And then if you do fly to Denver for the university, know that you can get to our campus all by light rail in about an hour 15 minutes from the Denver International Airport. So it's a lot of our students use when they go home or come back from that 6-week winter break or summer breaks. But the light rail and just public transportation really does expand our campus to include the city of Denver as well. Now, our tour guide's going to talk a lot more about the tangibles of how we use Denver. Reason that I want to bring it up is more for the quality of life purposes. Denver has consistently ranked as one of the top 5 cities for quality of life, really strong work-life balance. And because of that, the relationship we have with the city is so strong that although 75% of our students come from out of state, 2/3 of our graduates stay in Colorado after their time here. So it means that we have a really strong young alumni base here. We also have a really high employment rate from Colorado employers. And essentially what I'm trying to say is once we get you here, it's really hard to leave because the city is so amazing. But talk a little bit more about the student experience and how we engage with our student body. I'm going to bring Jess back onto the screen, talk about her experience.
Awesome. Thanks, Grant. So yeah, some things that are really important to kind of touch on in terms of the student experience in the context of DU as being a campus and also DU being within Denver. Some things I've really appreciated about the city of Denver has been kind of the accessibility of all these different types of experiences. So for instance, I've been able to see a bunch of live professional sports downtown Denver. I've seen a Nuggets game. I've seen Rockies games, things like that. So it's been really, really fun to get downtown. I also this past summer was able to see some phenomenal concerts, namely Taylor Swift in downtown Denver. The best night of my life for sure. So that was a really awesome experience. And I do really think Denver specifically is kind of a really awesome cultural hub and center for students to explore. So that's really something to keep in mind. And with the RTD Pass, it's super accessible for students. So it's really been a great experience for me. Another thing that I like to touch on when talking about kind of the cultural aspect of DU is our orientation process and kind of how we introduce students into that culture and what that's going to feel like. Our Discoveries orientation process is phenomenal. I went through it as a student, and even though it was in the midst of COVID, I still felt really kind of welcomed into the community, and the people were so welcoming, for lack of a better word, but really willing to just kind of meet me where I'm at and recognize that we're all new here. We got to kind of go around and see all the different clubs and activities that we can participate in. That's the activities fair at the beginning of the year. So that was really awesome to just kind of see all the options that I had. A great thing about DU also is that if you want to start a club, it's really rather easy for you to do that. So there really is a place for everyone to kind of let their passions and their experiences develop into building community. So that's been a really awesome experience for me in terms of kind of diving into what the cultural life has to provide. Another thing I would mention, and kind of the final thing, is that kind of mountain culture. If that is something that you do want to do and you do want to participate in, being a part of the Rocky Mountains, it's beautiful. I actually was just skiing this past weekend. I definitely recommend kind of taking that up, even if it's something you're not used to. Our Alpine Club is great with students who are beginners, and they welcome anyone with any level of ability in terms of that. So definitely try to get out there, but there's also a ton of stuff to do here in Denver and on campus as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. And Jess hit it right out of the park, and a great segue into what we were going to talk about next, and it is the mountain culture. Now, for a lot of our students, it is their first time to the Rocky Mountain region. And one thing we really want to highlight while you're here with us this evening is the fact that we actually have a second campus for our students to explore. 2 years ago, we opened up the new James C. Kennedy Mountain Campus, making us one of the only schools in the nation to have both a city setting and a mountain setting for our students to explore. Now, this isn't the type of campus that we're going to have here in the city of Denver. We don't have students living up there full time. Think of it more of as an extension of your time in the Denver campus. So your first introduction to this campus would be through something we call First Ascent. Jess did a great job of talking about our Discoveries orientation, and this is an extended part of that. So during your first quarter on campus, you have the opportunity to go out for an entire weekend to explore the James C. Kennedy Mountain campus. Up there, you'll see we have a lake with canoes and kayaks. We have bouldering rocks, miles upon miles of hiking and biking trails, We're building a competitive mountain biking course up there, 2 via ferrata courses. There are cabins for our students to stay in. There's also kind of one central union style building that has dining options, meditation spaces, classroom facilities. And then we have a fitness center that has a rock climbing wall and other various activities. So it's a great way to kind of escape the city a little bit, escape the craziness of college, and kind of be in the Rocky Mountain region. Now, after that first ascent, you're welcome to go up there the rest of your 4 years, and we traditionally provide transportation for those. So that could be with a class, especially if you're interested in environmental science or the biological sciences. There's actually a new research facility for us as well. And then lastly would be for any retreats. For example, our honors program has made retreats up there. Fraternity life has made retreats up there. So it's a great way to see the campus, also separate yourself a little bit from the Denver community, but still be within the DU community overall. Now, before we bring our students back onto the screen to answer the questions that I see coming through the Q&A, so keep those coming, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about the logistics of DU and how to make this your experience. And that all starts with our application process. So from here on throughout this presentation, we're really going to start from the time that you apply until the time that you start your classes. So through that application process, for those who have not applied, know that we have 2 timelines that we run through. We have 0 preference between these 2. We get roughly the same amount of applications per timeline. So the biggest difference then is just when you hear back an admission decision. Students that apply by November 1st hear back a decision in the middle of December. Students that wait until January 15th hear back at the end of February. So it's about a 6-week turnaround time regardless. Now, how we review applications is very much on a holistic basis, and we also read for our own territory, so we know your high schools pretty well. We are on the Common Application exclusively. Each part of the Common App is different pieces of the puzzle that we look at. One of the biggest pieces that we look at is your high school transcripts. Transcripts tell us a lot about your projected success here, but it tells many different stories. One of those would be GPA or GPAs that are listed. A big thing for us is your strength of schedule. So are you taking the most difficult classes for your high school has to offer to you? And then the third thing we would look at is any trends. Are you on an upward trend or have you been pretty consistent in high school? Maybe you're on a downward trend or there's some inconsistencies. If those latter 2 apply to you, then we definitely encourage you to fill out the additional information section that the Common App gives you to give us context to maybe extenuating circumstances that we can't find anywhere else in your application. When it comes to essays themselves, we only require 1 essay. It's a Common App essay. We have 0 supplements that we require, and students do not have to submit them. Other parts of the application that we look at would be your activities list, any honors and awards, and then a letter of recommendation, which comes from your high school counselor. Now, we recognize that some of you may go to schools where your counselor's caseload is 400 to 500 students. They may not be able to speak directly to your individual abilities. So we also give the option for our students to submit additional letters of rec. On average, I read about 2 or 3 per student, and those can come from anyone besides family members. So we see a lot of coaches, a lot of employers, a lot of pastors, a lot of maybe music directors, just people who can either speak to your overall character or your academic ability. And then the last optional piece would be test scores. DU as an institution, we went test optional before the pandemic, and we've always been super clear that test scores play very little role in our admission decisions. We care so much more about how students do over 4 years than how they do 1 day in 4 hours. So if you feel like test scores reflect you as a student, feel free to submit them. Just know that over 2/3 of our student body no longer submit test scores. Now, the last part about this slide is just how should I apply? So you'll see underneath each timeline that we have 4 different ways for our students to apply. Majority of our students apply either early action or regular decision, meaning that you're going to be applying to other schools, hearing back decisions, and we'll give you until May 1st to let us know whether you're coming to DU or not. However, maybe you know, or maybe you will know that DU is the right fit for you academically, socially, and financially. Then we encourage those students to apply either early decision 1 or early decision 2. Now, this is a binding contract, meaning you can only apply to 1 school in the United States early decision. If you get admitted there, you're going there. So it can take some of the stress out of the college search process, and you can jump right into those next steps processes as an admitted student. Now, in comparison to a lot of our peers who also offer early decision, we offer our students benefits to applying early decision. So not only do you get stronger consideration in an earlier admission decision, we also start our early decision students off with an extra $5,000 merit award right up front, in addition to what we will likely give you outside of that. And then we also will meet full demonstrated need for our top performers. So if you are a really strong student and you know that the financial cost of college is going to be a big decision factor for you and your family, then maybe applying early decision was going to be a really good fit for you, as it'll be your closest thing to a full ride at the university. If you have further questions about that, please contact your counselor. We'd be happy to talk more about what that early decision process looks like. Now, it's also a great segue in talking about the financial side of the university. DU's total cost of attendance is just north of $76,000 per academic year. There are very few students that pay that full price, and that comes in one of two ways. So the first way is at the bottom of this screen. It's through the need-based financial aid process. If you are a student or family member seeking federal grants and loans, institutional grants and loans, or work study opportunities, then we require those students to submit both the FAFSA run through the federal government, as well as a CSS profile, which is run through College Board. Now, for any admitted students on the screen, we recognize that the FAFSA just opened. Unfortunately, your year just looked different this year. So we're starting to release those financial aid offers in the middle of February, and those will continue through April. So the sooner you get those in, the sooner we get back a financial aid offer. Now, for our juniors and below, the FAFSA typically opens October 1st, same as CSS profile. So if you're looking to apply through that early action deadline or early decision 1 deadline of November 1st, we typically will get you a financial aid offer within a week of your admission decision. So things to look forward to. However, if you want to start looking at what that financial cost could be or will look like for you and your family, on our website, we have our quick cost estimator, which allows you to put in preliminary financial information as well as your academic information, and we give you a net price of what historically your cost to come to the university will be. So that is the first way through students receiving financial assistance. The second way is very common for our students, and it's through our merit scholarship opportunities. Now, we separate this into first-year students on the left and transfers on the right. So if you're an incoming first-year student, those scholarships range from $12,000 to $36,000 per academic year. So there are an annual award, and you also can stack outside scholarships on top of this. For example, if you are a Chancellor Scholar and an Early Decision 1 student, this is a $41,000 a year award now. To give you an idea of the competitiveness of our classes, the top left corner lets you know who we admitted last year. So of the students we admitted last year, the middle 50% had a weighted GPA between a 3.73 and a 4.0. So 25% of students were above a 4.0, 25% of students were below a 3.73. But I usually tell students, if you're somewhere in the 3.4, 3.5 range and above, not only would you be competitive for admission, but you would also then be competitive for one of the merit scholarships you see. On the right-hand side, we recognize there's many different ways to become a DU student, and we pride ourselves as an institution that we're pretty transfer friendly. If you are considering going somewhere else and transferring to DU, that is totally fine. We actually have that application on a rolling basis, so there's no too hard deadlines. And then to be competitive for their merit scholarship awards, about a 3.0 GPA is competitive there for those scholarships ranging from $10,000 to $24,000 per academic year. The second part of transferring is transfer credit. So as I mentioned before, if you are taking AP exams, IB exams, or you're taking dual enrollment classes, please check out our admissions website. We have little criteria there so you can know how many credits that you're bringing in. So let's say you've been admitted. Now you're wondering what your next steps are. So if you're an admitted student, one of the biggest dates to keep in the back of your mind is May 1st. May 1st is National Decision Day, and it's your last opportunity to let us know whether you're coming to DU or not. Let's say between now and then you decide DU is the right fit for you. We definitely encourage you to go into your application status portal, which is where we release your admission decision, and complete the admissions response form. If you decide DU is the right fit for you, then we'll also ask for your enrollment deposit, which is $500. Other things you can start thinking about now as an admitted student could maybe be applying for financial aid. It could be maybe starting that housing contract through the housing portal. Maybe it's looking at different payment options down the future, or connecting with your classmates through a platform we call ZME. The last thing I would say for our admitted students is start looking at some of our supplemental programs we have to offer. We've talked about a few of these as we've gone through the presentation, but these ones that you see listed on the screen all have various dates and deadlines between our honors program, our learning effectiveness program, our leadership opportunities, many ways that you can customize your experience for the best academic fit for you and your family. Now, let's say you've been admitted, you are starting to do your next steps, and you know DU is the right fit for you. Then a lot of things start to happen post May 1. So if you decide to deposit at the university, May is when a lot of things start to open up for you as a student. It's when you get your first DU email address, so you can start looking at posting photos online for your DU ID. It's also a great time to start submitting final transcripts if you're graduating early or if you're graduating in May. June is when we start our orientation processes. So it's when our advising tools become available, as well as our placement tests for both foreign languages, as well as our math placement. Now, for me, July is the big month. July is when we do a transfer credit report for you. It's when we also do our housing assignments, and it's when you register for classes. So keep in the back of your mind, you're graduating high school in May or June. July will be a big month for you here at DU before August, where you're pretty much buying textbooks, figuring out who's bringing what for your residence hall. And then we move in on Labor Day weekend and start classes that following week. Now, before we bring our students back on, the last thing I want to leave with is one of the biggest questions that I get asked as a counselor, and it's why the University of Denver? What makes this place so special? And it's really hard to answer that without including our outcomes, specifically these two very important statistics. So of our class of 2022, over 95% of them completed their degree in 4 years or less. And 90% of those same students were either employed or seeking graduate school in 6 months. So the reason we show these is to let our students, our parents, our family members know that if DU does feel like a really good fit for you, not only will you have the flexibility to come here and study what you want right away, or come here and figure it out, but you're going to get to know your classmates pretty well and your faculty very well. You'll be a part of this DU community, the broader university neighborhood, the Denver metro region, the Rocky Mountain region. You'll likely go study abroad once or twice, have an internship or two, maybe get involved in some groundbreaking research. But the best part is that you can have all of those experiences, and we can pretty much guarantee that you're going to get it done on time and go on to do some pretty amazing things. Now, on your screen, you're going to see where some of our biggest alums have gone on to do some pretty amazing things. And this is a short list of what I'm sure could be 1,000 slides long from our alumni office, but it includes people like Condoleezza Rice, a 2-time DU alum. If you're a big NBA fan, Greg Popovich, head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. Maybe you're just a big athletics person and you'd recognize his name, Michelle Kwan, who is a transfer student to the university. Or my favorite up here, second from the bottom, General George Casey Jr., former chief of staff of the U.S. Army. And the reason he's my favorite is because he's also one of our faculty members. So great resources when you leave the university. We also partner with this organization called Handshake, which is kind of like a LinkedIn, but for colleges. So that way you can stay connected with our alums, stay connected with current students, and hopefully we'll be seeing some of your names on this list in 15 to 20 years. Who knows? But that was a lot of information in a very, very short amount of time. Now, if you have further questions for any of our departments that you see listed on the screen, I highly encourage you to take a picture of this slide. And I'm going to ask our students to come back onto the screen, and we'll start answering a lot of those questions that you have all been sending in throughout your time. But yes, we'll give you a moment to take a picture of this before I stop sharing and head back to our students. Awesome. Well, we have a lot of questions coming through the chat. And I was just wondering if we maybe just start with one of each for each of you. It's a very common one I know you all get. But it is, why do you? What was the deciding factor for you or factors? I know a lot of you also went through the college search process during a global pandemic, so we'll keep that lens in mind. But we'll go the opposite direction of how you all spoke. So Jess, we'll start with you, then go to Vincent, and we'll end with Lily.
Awesome. So yeah, there's a couple reasons why I chose DU. First of all, I think the fact that being in the middle of COVID and having all of that pressure on the whole college decision process. With all that happening, DU was the #1 school that had the online resources for me. They had pictures and diagrams of what the dorm rooms looked like. They had, vlogs of walking around campus, all this type of stuff that really made it feel like I was on campus. So that was a huge reason why. Additionally, I loved the programs, and the international studies program specifically really drew me. And then I'll also say I'm here because of the merit scholarships, and I'm definitely very grateful for that financial aid and the ability to still be able to come here. And yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I grew up in Colorado, like I said, about 30 minutes north of campus. So I was always familiar with DU. I'm familiar with the area. And to be honest, I always thought I was going to leave Colorado and go out of state. And so I toured a bunch of schools kind of all around, toured DU several times, and ultimately DU always felt like home. The campus here, if you get a chance to visit, is top tier. It's so beautiful, especially in the fall. I think that's my favorite time of year on this campus. Would recommend visiting at that time, but any other time is great as well. And I think the size of the university, I felt like I wasn't just going to be a number in a big crowd. I was going to be valued as a student from faculty. And then I also really like the location of our university. We have our own campus here, just a little bit south of downtown Denver, but of course we have access to downtown Denver with that light rail pass. And we also have a lot of access into the mountains. So if you're interested in skiing, hiking, anything like that. So uh, several different factors came together and it really made sense to go to DU for me.
The first and foremost thing you're probably going to hear all of us echoing was we did apply during COVID. So I was unable to tour campus. So I really had to rely on learning everything I could through just like online webinars, just like this, also through the website. But the one thing that I did was I knew I kind of wanted to study criminology coming in, but I didn't really kind of know what that entailed. And the criminology website just kind of gave me classes, but they didn't go into depth of what those classes were. So I actually just emailed the head of the department. It took one Google search, it was really easy. And I set up a Zoom meeting with them just because I wanted to know, like, just with certainty, because I had no idea if we were even going to be coming to campus, but I wanted to know at least like what academically am I going to get into. Criminology is also, it's becoming a bigger major. I'm really happy about that. But in 2020, not a huge major, very few schools offered it. So I kind of wanted to know right away, is this something I want to jump right into? Or do I still want to go to DU as an undeclared major and kind of just discover my path there? So I also do recommend that. Everyone's information is on Google. You can find heads of departments, kind of learn a little bit more so that you can feel prepared academically coming in. Another reason is I love Chicago, but it is flat. It is a very, very flat city. So I knew I kind of wanted to try to get out of the Midwest, and I thought, why not do the mountains? So I just kind of wanted to basically just explore somewhere on my own, and DU kind of just hit that perfect Goldilocks condition of still being a huge metropolitan area. Like I saw a Pitbull concert here. It was so much fun, but also I can go up into the mountains and pretend I like hiking. It's not for me, but I like to go with my friends at least and try. And lastly would be, same as Jess mentioned, the financial aid DU offers. It's really great that they offer merit-based aid and they also offer need-based aid. So I know some schools, I don't want to speak too generally, but sometimes you can be forced to choose one or the other, but DU doesn't do that, which is really, really great that they kind of just stack your scholarship opportunities together.
Awesome. Thank you each for sharing as well. It's cool to see the similarities and differences between each of you. Now, we did get a question about some of those supplemental programs that I talked about that maybe require a separate application, specifically our honors program and our pioneer leadership program. So I'm wondering, Vincent, if you could talk about the academic side of those programs and then also the social side. Is there specific floors that students can live on campus? What events do you do off of campus? But we'll let you take that question.
Yeah, of course. So I'm part of both of those programs. And so just to touch on it really quick, your application process, I applied, I think it was March of my senior year of high school. So the spring before I came to DU, I applied in March or so. I heard back within 3 weeks, I think. So before I made my final decision, I knew I was in both of those programs. First year living options for both programs. If you're in the Pioneer Leadership Program, you're required to live on the floor. That means you're going to be in a cohort of about 80 students. You're going to live in a floor in the DeMond Family Residential Village, and your roommate, your RA, and pretty much all the rooms around you are going to be from that program. Now, the honors program also does have their own living community. It's also the DeMond Family Residential Village, very similar to that Pioneer Leadership style. So your roommate is from the program, your RA, as well as everyone else. The main difference between the two is in the Pioneer Leadership Program, you're required to live on the floor. In the Honors Program, you have the option to live on the floor. What that means is if you're in both, you'll live on the PLP floor. So in my case, I lived on the PLP floor. In terms of academics, what it kind of looks like in the classroom, a lot of the honors program is going to fill in for that university common core that we mentioned before. So, for example, you'll take history classes or English classes. You'll take a science sequence within the honors college. Or honors program, excuse me. And so within the honors program, you're going to be taking a lot of those classes with your cohort. So it's a really easy way to get to know people. The professors, typically the classes are smaller. They're a little bit more discussion based than some of our traditional Common Core classes. So if you really want to get a lot of individual attention and get to know a lot of your classmates, it's a really good program. For the Pioneer Leadership Program, it's a little bit different. It's a 24 credit minor. What that looks like is during your freshman and sophomore years, you're going to take 3 classes each, one each quarter. So fall, winter, spring. And then at the end of that, you'll take a couple of electives. Usually students do one of those interterm trips that I mentioned, and then you'll have a capstone during your junior or senior year. A lot of the academics Your freshman year are about like leadership theory, and then your sophomore year, you'll do a practical application of that. So partner with a local nonprofit or some kind of organization, create some sort of long-term change in the community. For example, my group, we partnered with Denver Public Schools, and so we built community libraries for students experiencing homelessness in the city of Denver, and we partnered with another high school so that they would do book drives every single semester for those community libraries. Social aspect, really great way to meet people. Again, my best friends to this day are people who I met on my PLP floor or the floor right above me. And I think it's just the idea of going to classes together, living together, you get to know people academically, but also socially. And so it's a really great way to get to know people really quick. And so I highly recommend both. And I will say you also get to do cool things. There's often trips into the city. PLP actually this weekend, I'm going to my last mountain retreat with PLP, which I'm excited for, also a little bittersweet, but really cool things. You get to go up into the mountains. There's a lot of stuff in and around the Denver area that's basically included in the program. So highly recommend both.
Awesome. Thank you, Vince. I really appreciate it. Jess, we got a question about sorority and fraternity life. Now, it's about 18% of our student body, so 1 in 5, doesn't dominate social culture by any means. But for those students that do want to opt in, could you just talk about what that looks like and maybe how they work across campus for different events and activities?
Yeah, sure. So I will preface this by saying I am not in Greek life. I will also add on to that by saying that my closest friends here at DU have been in Greek life. And so I have been to my fair share of formals and events relating to Greek life. So I do feel pretty kind of well versed in that topic. While it isn't a large percentage of our student body, I will say it's a really awesome opportunity for professional growth, as well as just kind of like building community here on campus. The majority of what I've interacted with has been sororities, but I do want to recognize that they go beyond just what the traditional scope of Greek life is. And so we have our professional Greek organizations as well as our multicultural Greek organizations, and those are incredibly important for students, and I would argue just as important as all of those other organizations. So really important to kind of keep in mind that it is an option for students, but that being said, it's not going to dictate the social life of campus here. So we like to say DU isn't like a larger school or maybe a state school or maybe even, wherever, honestly, where it's more kind of preferred that you're part of Greek life. That's definitely not the case here. I haven't been a part of it, as I said before, like officially, and I've never felt compromised in terms of my own social life and the abilities that I've had to kind of interact with things. So it's a really awesome opportunity if it is something you want to be a part of. I know people have kind of branched out across the campus and been able to interact with people that they never would have otherwise through Greek life, but it doesn't, once again, dictate kind of what who can do certain things here on campus.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Lily, I'm going to ask you a question that is maybe one of my favorite ones I've ever gotten doing one of these, and it's pretty straightforward. How would you describe the vibe on campus?
I would kind of describe the vibe. I would honestly say that it's like a pretty busy campus. It's also kind of quiet. So this is something that we kind of that gets mentioned a lot on our tours. A lot of families will just be like, it's really quiet on campus. Like, where are all the students? We give tours during those 2-hour class times. So it's going to be quiet during Monday through Friday, just because a majority of our students are going to just be in the classroom. But I would say like during those Fridays is really when like you'll see a lot of our student body around out on campus. Some of the things that we like to talk about is when we mention clubs, like the DU Alpine Club, a lot of those trips are over like Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So they're going to be off in the mountains, taking those trips. I know Dungeons and Dragons meets on Fridays for like 5 hours. Like, I'm like, damn, you guys are really, really dedicated on a Friday night for meeting. But yeah, Dungeons and Dragons meets for a lot of those hours, or a lot of hours on Fridays. So really a lot of our students are going to be either in academics or involved in clubs that are going to be meeting throughout the weeks for either like up to 5 hours, or typically most meetings are probably only going to be about an hour. That's how long our Model United Nations meetings go for. Otherwise, yeah, I would just kind of describe the vibe as really open and friendly. on campus, you kind of can just go up to somebody and kind of start a conversation. It is like a very approachable campus, and it's also a very I would just say like spread out campus, in the idea that a lot of our academic buildings are kind of grouped together. So you will see a lot of our students out, especially on the greens when it's really beautiful days out. But yeah, that's kind of how I would just describe the vibe of the campus.
Yeah, Jess and Vincent, anything to add to that? Okay, yeah, I thought you did really well. Awesome, thank you. So another question we got is kind of that post outcomes, after students are leaving here, how are we setting them up for success? So Jess, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about career advising, job placement resources, what we do on our campus starting your freshman year through senior year to really prepare our students post DU.
Yeah, so that is really going to be housed at our Burwell Center, which is directly across the campus green from where our dining hall is. So it really is in kind of the center of student life and the hub of kind of the culture here on campus. So keep that in mind, like career progress and development is really a core part of our student body. And so yeah, so in that Burwell Center is where you're really going to access the majority of those resources. Some of them that are important to mention being our alumni network. That spans the entire globe and really opens opportunities for students if they just want to speak with some alumni who are in their field, or maybe they want to pursue job opportunities, have a mentorship, things like that. It really just opens it up to whatever the student is open to. And those alumni are always really willing to speak to students. So that's a really great resource. I'd also say our kind of job and internship database is spectacular for students, and it spans really the Denver area, but you can also go past that area and look into things throughout the country. And I believe even globally, there might be some opportunities for that as well. So there's definitely a really kind of wide span database and resource point for students who are looking for that job/internship search. And then I'd also say the number one thing that's been nice for me is that one-on-one career advising. And a lot of those are with peers. And so that's been really kind of reassuring to talk through that with a student and also a faculty member who might be meeting with me as well. So it really just gives that one-on-one personalized experience, and that could include resume building, cover letter writing, or even just kind of discussing career advice and career kind of projection. So that and many other kind of opportunities and events are housed at that Burwell Center, and are going to be really kind of the source for your resources in terms of career development.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us this evening, and thank you to our 3 students as well for sharing their experiences. I want to let you know this virtual open house is a 2-week event. So wherever you register for tonight's event, know that we have academic sessions, financial aid session, housing, different programs across campus throughout the next 2 weeks. So go where you register for this today. Be sure to register for some others. But if today got you excited about coming to campus, know that throughout the entire spring, we host events for both non-admitted students and admitted students. Now, our daily campus tours are 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. Monday through Friday, and that's Mountain Time. So feel free to come to one of those. But if you are looking for something a little more grandeur, especially for our admitted students, we do have our half-day Friday at DU events. Those happen on Fridays from February through April. It's a great day to come get an information session similar to this one, hear from a student panel also similar to this. Great to see campus, have lunch on our campus, and then you get to opt into 1 or 2 academic appointments and a mini resource fair. So it's a great half day if you do need to be on your way. However, if you are looking for the big day of DU, we have 2 events happening called Journey to DU. Journey to DU is a full day of events. We do campus tours every hour on the hour. We do a big welcome session in one of our athletics facilities. It is pretty much a make your own adventure day. We have sample classes, resource fairs, academic sessions. I tell my students who are coming from a long ways away that it is the most bang for your buck, but you'll get all the other information at very similar daily campus tours or a Friday DU. So do what's best for you, but we hope to see you on campus and at the rest of our virtual open house this week and next week. And thank you so much again for attending. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye-bye.